Hi everybody, it's Emily Jan again, and I am joining you again virtually for the Field Trip Residency. This is the last video log that I will be doing for the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, and I hope that you will enjoy it. Field Trip, as some of you know, was originally conceived as a residency sort of examining issues around working as a person of color within the greater Canadian contemporary art milieu. We have done a lot of talking around these issues, and we have had some really amazing guest speakers come and share their perspectives with us. But I thought for this last video log, I would share with you just a little bit of my perspective. Now it happens that right before I began this residency, I wrote the foreword for the catalog of a show called Relations, Diaspora and Painting. And this has been on view at the Fondation Phi here in Montreal since the spring. Of course, with the pandemic and everything, the viewership was not the usual way that we would run things at the gallery. And part of the concept of this show, which was conceived by our curator Cheryl Sim, was to have texts instead of the sort of usual wall text that you would have in the gallery accompanying the paintings. Texts written by other artists, by writers, by art historians, by other people in the Canadian art sort of milieu, reflecting on each artist and their work. And this was meant to actually be in the gallery and be read alongside the paintings. But given the conditions of COVID-19, we were unable to do that. So where all of these texts ended up was in the catalog for Relations, and I was invited to write the foreword for this catalog, which was a great honor to do. And I was asked to sort of share some of my personal perspective as an artist, as an immigrant, as a person of color working in Canada, and a member of the sort of Chinese diaspora worldwide. One afternoon several years ago, when I was home and visiting my parents in California, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to a little old lady holding a cardboard box. She said something in Mandarin, handed me the box, and unceremoniously left. I opened it, and out wafted the odor of inks and rice paper, old brocade and mothballs, a bouquet that I can only describe as the infinite distance between here and the old country. The box contained several scrolls of my grandfather's calligraphy and a hand-bound book of my grandmother's watercolors. My grandparents had both been dead for decades. For those of us who live in diaspora, there are thousands of miles embedded in the word relations. I opened the book and I looked at the pictures, familiar yet remote, and unrolled the scrolls, which I couldn't read. Language often doesn't survive the transplanting, since assimilation was the goal for many generations, including mine. As my English has gained dexterity, my first language, Mandarin, has dwindled to a vestigial stump. Images, however, are not contained by geography or lexicon. They can cross an ocean of water or an ocean of words and lose no legibility. Neither are they subject to the time scale of a human life, fragile walking bags of seawater and consciousness that we are. Perhaps that's why I wound up as an artist too. While my grandmother was a traditional Chinese painter, rendering birds and flowers in long-lost landscapes, I became a sculptor. The things I make are ecosystems of a sort. Equal parts awkward and magical, they operate under their own logic in which the human is largely subsumed into hybrids of flora and fauna, object and detritus. I see kinship and indeterminacy everywhere I look, likely the result of residing in so many different places over the years, in monolithic cities and far out in the boondoo both. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, or so they say in my parents' field of biology, meaning that the development of an individual embryo echoes the evolution of the whole species. Or to paraphrase, that one life contains within it all the history that brought it to pass in the first place. My own trajectory has bounced around the globe like a lotto ball, taking me from California to the East Coast, to the desert southwest of the United States, then to South Africa and Oaxaca State, and ultimately to Montreal. From here, I've traveled from Dawson City to Newfoundland, from edge to edge of this vast and beautiful terrain that some call Canada. If my grandparents' generation was the drawn bow that catapulted us out of the old country, our generation is the arrow, still flying toward some unknown future. Of course, mine is just one in a myriad of stories. There are as many narratives of diaspora as there are grains of sand on the beach. From a distance, they may present uniformity, but up close, they are 1,000 mineral hues. Standing before the work and relations, this is what I see. Color and movement, the intimate gaze of strangers, the ground by other light under unfamiliar stars. I see the pantheon of gods who traveled here with us, fractured and then reformed into something new. And I feel my own edges blur a bit, staring into the stereoscopic overlap of two or more senses of the word home. At the end of the day, images persist. They arrive on your doorstep unannounced one fall afternoon, in a cardboard box borne by an elderly woman with whom you share only fragments of a language. They tell us who we once were, but we may also use them to create our own hybrid likenesses for those who will come after us, for whom we will be the ancestors.